Srimad Bhagavatam as well. And the tradition continues. So auspicious to invoke the presence of the Lord Vasudeva, who is present everywhere, to bless our hearing and chanting about him. And that is the subject of today's verse, which is 5th Canto, Chapter 18, text number 36. Yasya svarupam kavayo vipaschito guneshu dhareshviva jata vedasam matnanti matnanti mantna manasadi drikshavo gudham kriyarthair nama iritatmane yasya svarupam kavayo vipaschito guneshu dhareshviva jata vedasam matnanti matna manasadi drikshavo Gudam kriyartair nama iritatmane. Yasya svarupam kavayo vipaschito. Guneshu dhareshviva jata vedasam. Mantnanti matna manasadi drikshavo. Gudham kriyartair nama iritatmane. Word for word translation says, Yasya, whose? Svarupam, form. Kavayaha, the greatly learned sages. Vipaschitaha, expert in ascertaining the absolute truth. Guneshu, in the material manifestation consisting of the three modes of nature. Dhareshu, in wood. Iva, like. Jata, manifested. Vedasam, fire. Mantnanti, stir. Mantna, with a piece of wood used for producing fire. Manasa, by the mind. Didrikshava, who are inquisitive. Gudham, hidden. Kriya arthai, by fruit of activities and their results. Namaha, respectful obeisances. Irita atmane, unto the Lord who is manifested. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada ki jai. By manipulating a fire-generating stick, the great saints and sages can bring forth the fire lying dormant within wood. In the same way, O Lord, those expert in understanding the absolute truth try to see you in everything, even in their own bodies. Yet you remain concealed. You are not to be understood by indirect processes involving mental or physical activities. Because you are self-manifested, only when you see that a person is wholeheartedly engaged in searching for you do you reveal yourself. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. The word kriyartai means by performing ritualistic ceremonies to satisfy the demigods. The word vipashtita is explained in the Taittiriya Upanishad as follows. Satyam jnanam anantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman soshnute sarvan kaman saha brahmana vipashtiti. As Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Bahuram janmanam ante jnanavanmam prapadyate. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me. When one understands that the Lord is situated in everyone's heart and actually sees the Lord present everywhere, he has perfect knowledge. The word jata vedaha means fire which is produced by rubbing wood. In Vedic times, learned sages could bring forth fire from wood. Jata vedaha also indicates the fire in the stomach, which digests everything we eat and which produces an appetite. The word gudaha is explained in the Shvetashvatar Upanishad. Eko deva sarva bhuteshu gudaha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is understood by chanting the Vedic mantras. Sarva vyapi sarva bhutantaratma. He is all-pervading, and he is within the heart of living entities. Karmadyakshaha sarva bhutadivashaha. He witnesses all activities of the living entity. Sakshi cheta kevalo nirganascha. The Supreme Lord is the witness as well as the living force, yet he is transcendental to all material qualities. Is this the right verse for today? Hold on. Kala Swarupa. Yeah, you read 34 and 35. Yeah. Okay, so this is the right verse. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Definitely text 36.
Right. Yeah, this is the correct one. My brain is still coming up to speed here, ready to merge onto the intellectual superhighway. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamahyam Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Raghunathan Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutta Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So, nearing the end of this chapter of the prayers offered by the residents of Jambudvipa, and herein we're hearing about how the Lord can be known by the devotees, even though he remains concealed. The Lord is concealed. He has the right to do so, just like all of us. We conceal our real self to those who, frankly, are unworthy. Let's be honest. If a person doesn't meet our criteria, we don't reveal ourselves. At least we don't reveal what's intimately important to us. We don't share what our desires, our hopes, our aspirations, our longings. We don't even share our frustrations, our anxieties. Even those are carefully protected from one who is not a well-wisher and is not a friend. We all have that propensity. We all do it. Krishna does as well. He says in the Bhagavad Gita, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavrita mudhoyam nabijananti lokamam ajam avyayam. That he is never manifested to those who are foolish, unintelligent. He's covered by his yoga maya. He's got his own energy for bewildering other people. And remains behind the veil of that illusion, so that he cannot be deterministically proven by some unwilling skeptic. Here it says, you are not to be understood by indirect processes involving mental or physical activities. You cannot be revealed to someone who thinks that just by some sort of wrangling of the mind or some sort of physical necessity, therefore God will be revealed to me. No. Queen Kunti says, Natya Natya Darayataha. Just like an actor on a stage, Krishna remains hidden. When you see a performance on stage, a person is dressed in a character, but playing a part. They're acting. And you don't know the nature of the actor. You can't tell by watching their performance if they play Hamlet or something. You don't know what is the actor's personal life like. That's not possible. All you know is what they reveal, what it is that they want to show to the audience. Everyone has that right. We cannot deny that the Lord has that right as well. And why should he? Why should he is not really for it, unlike us, who protect ourselves out of insecurity or some frustration. The Lord hides himself so that we will be benefited, because our offensive mentality, which is the reason we're in this material world, does not make for a very good resolution with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But to those who wholeheartedly search for him, as is described in this verse, then he reveals himself. In other words, the relationship is key. Understanding God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not just about some sort of quantity of information. To download the information, now I have the information. Now I have some sort of supremacy over the subject of the information. Like when you study a subject at university, you just try to get the maximum amount of information. How much can you fit within your brain? And then you have some supremacy over the subject, and you get to tell other people, this is what the subject is about. After all, I have this degree and that degree and so many qualifications. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not understood by some quantity of knowledge. It's understood by a depth of relationship, by wholeheartedly engaging and searching for him. That's what this verse is saying here. He's actually everywhere. And those who are great sages and saints, they see him everywhere. They can manifest consciousness of the Lord anywhere. Just like fire is dormant within wood, you simply need to know the process. The process is cultivating the relationship. Has anyone ever rubbed sticks together to produce wood? I was a Boy Scout, believe it or not, in the Boy Scouts of America. We had to do stuff like that. You get your sticks and you gotta you gotta find really dry sticks, first of all, and you have to get them in just the kind of right size and peel back some bark so that there's good friction between the dry inner fibers, and lots of different techniques. You got the bow technique and then the rubbing up against some other stick technique. Anyway, if you do it hard enough, the fire which is dormant in the wood can be manifest. That fire is dormant because the wood itself was grown from the solar fire, sunlight. So the energy of the fire still exists within the wood. That's why we burn organic matter, which has been lying dormant within the earth for a long time. Coal, oil. This is all highly decomposed and petrified organic matter, plant matter, which, as a result of photosynthesis, stores that energy of fire and sunlight, and then it can again be burned. So the fire is within the wood. It's present there. And if one knows the process, it can be manifest. So in this verse, it's saying that the sages and the saints, they can bring forth the fire lying dormant in the wood in the same way, O Lord. Those expert in understanding absolute truth try to see you in everything, even in their own bodies. So the Lord cannot be deterministically proven to an unwilling skeptic. We should ask ourselves, am I an unwilling skeptic? Am I affected by the new atheism of the past decade or two, where you just make the most philosophically naive, sentimental, atheistic arguments? Like, well, as far as I can tell, he's not in this room, and he should be here in this room answering my questions, even though I hate him. And he's not, so therefore, there is no God. Are we also affected by such philosophically naive sentiments? As is stated here, it cannot be deterministically proven to an unwilling skeptic or understood by indirect processes involving mental or physical activities. But it can be very easily understood by devotion, by relationship, by the processes of hearing, chanting, remembering, praying. The Lord is appeased by the loving sentiment, by someone who wholeheartedly engages in searching. That's probably what brought most of us here today. At some point in life, we were wholeheartedly engaged in searching. Many of us, of course, we were even involved in the religion of our parents, but we're not wholeheartedly engaged in searching. Somehow, by the good fortune, we come in contact with people who are wholeheartedly engaged in searching for the Lord. And then we too wholeheartedly engage in searching for the Lord. So let us remember this as we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, as we're chanting the Lord's holy names, to make it a wholehearted engagement of searching for understanding the Lord in this way. Not just how do we get the maximum information. Information is separate from the subject. It's separate from even the teacher. But the Divya Gyan, the transcendental knowledge of Krishna consciousness, is intrinsically related to the subject and the teacher. They are the same. Krishna is the original teacher. He is also the subject. What is to be known by that knowledge, and he even provides the faculties for knowledge. Everything has its connection with the Lord in that way. That's how we approach Srimad Bhagavatam. So when we're reading, it's not just like, well, I got to get some, the devotees say, I got to read through all these books. I guess I got to, become expert in the subject. It's not quite like that. When we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, we're associating first with Srila Prabhupada, actually associating with Srila Prabhupada and associating with the Lord. It's not just about information content. It's about Sangha, Sangha with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And of course, when we're chanting, we should chant with this attitude. Not that the Lord is understood by some indirect process involving mental or physical activities. Like, well, look, Krishna, I've got the beads in my hand and I'm saying the words. The physical and mental activity is going on. But is the spirit, the soul longing for union with the Lord? That's what we need to ask ourselves. If the soul really is longing union or reunion with the Lord in yoga, then the Lord can be manifest anywhere. That's what the great sages and saints, they see the Lord everywhere. And Krishna says this in chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita in a verse that I won't be now, that he is actually existing everywhere and in all things. So the great devotees, they see it, but we have to have that attitude. Wholeheartedly engaging, the whole heart. I love how Prabhupada used this word, wholeheartedly. I don't know if it's a very literal translation from the Sanskrit. I don't really see wholehearted within the Sanskrit. But Prabhupada engages in bhava anuvada. He translates the feeling, the mood. So here, are we using our whole heart, or are we using 50%? Or 45%? Maybe 60% on a good day. We're a little afraid. Our whole heart is like, come on, Krishna. I gave you some of my heart. Can't give the whole heart. I'll lose myself if I give my whole heart. This is our fear. This is what's holding us back. We think, I'll give Krishna some, and he should be happy with what I'm giving. Some attentiveness, some practical devotional service. I have some faith. I'm giving Krishna a lot. He should be grateful that he's getting anything, frankly speaking. And this is good, but it's not great. What's great is to be wholeheartedly engaged in searching for the Lord. As we're chanting, as we're engaged in kirtan with the devotees and sankirtan with the non-devotees, should give wholeheartedly. I've just been repeating this point over and over and over again. I'm going to say it again, but to give whole heart in chanting means to listen attentively to the name of Krishna. That's the expression of love, just to listen attentively, to hear attentively the holy name of Krishna. That's how we put our heart into it. That's how we express devotion. In any relationship with another person, you show the most love and care by hearing attentively. It's very easy to just say whatever you want to say. But is that the expression of love? Just waiting for the other person to shut up so that I can say something? Is that love? Yeah. You said, but what's really important in this loving relationship is what I have to say. That's not the best expression of love. Even we might come up to another person and tell them, I love you. I love you. Now shut up and listen because I love you. But is that the best expression of love, or is it just something that I need to say so I get my pleasure? I feel pleasure by saying this, and that's the most important. Now, this is our problem. Perhaps what we don't understand very well is that real love is from attentively hearing. Is the beloved interested in? What does the beloved want to say? That's what I find most fascinating. And we chant Hare Krishna. We express our love by hearing attentively the holy names of the Lord. That's wholeheartedly engaged in searching for you. Wow. So I don't know about you all, but I've got a lot to work on. I'm definitely not wholeheartedly engaged. At times, it's 5% of my heart, maybe 6%, but so far from wholeheartedly. When we're wholeheartedly engaged, then yes, see the Lord everywhere. There's no doubt about that. Sometimes I have a little bit of that understanding. As Prabhupada says in this purport, when one understands the Lord is situated in everyone's heart and actually sees the Lord present everywhere, he has perfect knowledge. So sometimes we get a little bit of that understanding. The Lord is really everywhere. And if I were using my whole heart, I would see, or I can see. So a great way to see the Lord present in everyone's heart is to engage in Sankirtana. Sankirtana Yagya. Yagya is a really good analogy here. And the analogy of generating fire from rubbing two sticks together is a really great analogy because the Lord is present in everyone's heart. And Sankirtan is about rubbing those sticks until that devotion is manifested. And in my little experience of trying to rub people the right way, I have become 108% convinced that the Lord is present in every single person's heart and everyone is searching for the Lord. That's my conviction. I've hardly ever met a person who does not have some inclination towards love of God in their heart. And if you get in that environment, if you get in that situation where you're trying to await that love and see clearly, everyone is searching for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They think that they're searching for money and for fame and for power and for whatever other temporary useless crap exists. They think that that's what they're searching for, but really they're longing for loving connection with the Lord. I don't think I've ever a person so far who does not have that inclination. So Prabhupada's saying here, when one understands that the Lord is situated in everyone's heart and actually sees the Lord present everywhere, he has perfect knowledge. This is how we do Sankirtan. This is how we preach Krishna consciousness. First is seeing the Lord present in the heart and seeing that jiva, that soul's inclination to connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then just rubbing, rubbing until that little spark turns into a roaring fire. And it's just the most remarkable thing that exists anywhere in this universe. When that fire finally starts to burn, and then they just can't get enough. And then they go and start a fire in somebody else. Just the other day on Thursday night, we had such a wonderful program at the center, of course. And there's this young woman who's part of the university club that we have. And she showed me, now they're doing their own programs besides coming to the center and doing kirtan and prasadam and Bhagavad Gita and stuff like that. They're also doing more programs on campus on their own. The officers, the leaders of this bhakti club. So this one girl came up to me. She's come to Gita Nagari several times, Kayla, and she showed me this presentation, a review of a presentation she did to the club on Wednesday. I wasn't there. And it was all about spirituality and sustainability, and basically sharing so much of what she had learned from Gita Nagari. And she does a really interesting thing. She was tying it in with Patanjali's Yoga Sutras and Yama Niyamas. and how these spiritual principles of bhakti yoga help to inspire and facilitate a more ecologically sustainable lifestyle and all this sort of stuff. She made this great presentation to all these students, brand new people. So now she's out there preaching. And I could just see like the enthusiasm, just how excited she was to be doing that. The fire was really burning. She was like, "Oh yeah, I was just so nervous, because I don't often do, public speaking." And I felt like, how am I qualified? I only just discovered bhakti recently. I only just learned about Krishna very recently, and yet here I am trying to teach to others. But she's just like shaking in the ecstasy of the excitement. And and then, then I was affected, and I was also like, wow, this is incredible because that love of God is there in everyone's heart, just waiting to manifest in some way. We just have to find the way to make it manifest, like rubbing sticks together. If anyone's ever actually been out in the bush, as they say in Australia, out camping, trekking, whatever is the word they use in America, hiking, when you need to make fire, you don't have the perfect scenario. Usually, you just got to make do with whatever you've got, whatever sticks you can find. You just find whatever you can. It's not going to be the right shape or the perfect size or whatever. You just got to make do with what you got and get that fire going. It's crucial for survival. So similarly, when we're doing Sankirtana, you cannot conform to some stereotype method. You got to make do with whatever you've got. Otherwise, we're going to allow people to be frustrated with their trying to understand the Lord by the indirect processes involving mental or physical activities. We can't let the new atheists like Dawkins and Hitchens win with their philosophically naive sentiments. We need to find the ways and means to get that fire going, no matter what the circumstances, even if they're not ideal. That's the essence of Sankirtana that Srila Prabhupada made so clear, both in his own example and in his purport to Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lila, chapter 7, text number, I don't know, text number 31, 32. And this is going to be my last point because actually I have to finish early. That in this endeavor to, like the great sages, awaken the dormant propensity of love of God, you got to make do with whatever you've got. And you can't just stick to one formula and then blame everybody else if they don't, get with your program. That's why the devotees before Srila Prabhupada were not successful in spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world. But Srila Prabhupada was successful because he recognized you make do with what you got. In the Adi Lila chapter 7, text number 31 and 32, describes how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw that these Mayavadis were avoiding the flood of love of Godhead that he had inundated. And he wanted to think of a ways and means by which he could capture them. And therefore he took sannyas. Prabhupada says in the purport to this verse, he said, here's an important point. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to invent a way to capture the Mayavadis and others who did not take interest in the Krishna consciousness movement. This is the symptom of an acharya. Invent a way. Usually, we're kind of opposed to inventing new things. We take seriously the tradition of Krishna consciousness, the traditional knowledge. We don't encourage speculation. But here Prabhupada says, invent a way to capture those who do not take interest in Krishna consciousness, and that this is the symptom of an acharya. Let me just read a little bit of the purport, and then I'm going to stop talking here. Prabhupada says, an acharya who comes for the service of the Lord cannot be expected to conform to a stereotype, for he must find the ways and means by which Krishna consciousness may be spread. Then he goes on in the purport to say specifically that example in his own life is how he engages men and women in the same service. He says engages equally both boys and girls in distributing love of Godhead, and how so many other devotees would criticize him for this. Remarkably, even nowadays, so many of Srila Prabhupada's modern followers, I guess they haven't read this verse in purport where Prabhupada says equally engaged, and there's still so much protesting against female Diksha gurus. Prabhupada says equally engaged, but whatever. Everybody's got their own opinion in Kali Yuga. But here's the point. Prabhupada's just using that as one example of himself. Make do with what you've got to awaken love of Godhead in the heart of all living entities. And he says in this purport that this is perfect knowledge. When one understands that the Lord is situated in everyone's heart, like fire in wood, you see love of Godhead is present in everyone's heart, then that's perfect knowledge. And you find the ways and means to make it happen. When you're starting a fire, you don't always have the perfect conditions. You just make do with whatever sticks you got. And when we're spreading the Krishna consciousness movement, similarly, the ways and means cannot be stereotyped. They're not necessarily conform to some tradition. The crucial task of awakening love of Godhead supersedes the importance of stereotyped formulas. That's what Srila Prabhupada demonstrated. And I think that's what's being described in this verse here, this Bhagavatam verse. The Lord cannot be understood by indirect processes involving mental or physical activities, but he can be understood by a person wholeheartedly engaged in searching for you. So in our effort to save the world and to flood the entire universe with love of Godhead, we must consider like this, that propensity to love is there in everyone's heart. How do we just get that little spark fanned into a roaring fire? If we make that our mission, then our life will be filled with Krishna's ecstasy at all times, and the Lord will reveal himself as such. Hare Krishna. To finish just a little early because we have a very, 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 very busy day, and it starts like in just a moment. So I apologize, but if anyone would like to very quickly add something or disagree, feel free. Or of course, you can continue to discuss amongst yourselves, or we can just take the extra time to hear and chant.
Hare Krishna.
I gotta go. Yes, dear Taka Prabhu.
Um, I'll try to make it quick. I want to thank you for a nice class. It's always a pleasure to hear your classes, starting with your beautiful rendition of Jai Radha Madhava with your buttery smooth voice.
Kind of a
And
one-trick pony, but thanks, Prabhu.
and of course your commentary is also always wonderful to hear. I um I just wanted to add that because yeah, you were speaking about hearing, and this is, I guess, the second time recently you talked about this being the best way to manifest love or bhakti. And I just think it's worth mentioning that bhakti, love, is manifested through devotional service, of which there are 9 processes, and um, beginning with hearing and also chanting and remembering and so on. Generally, we, Srila Prabhupada would speak of hearing as being particularly important because everything begins with hearing. But all of the processes of devotional service are important, and it's explained that one can achieve perfection by performance of any of them or all of them or any combination of them. But hearing is important because without hearing, you don't know anything, don't know how to take the next step. So everything begins with hearing. Anyway, I won't take any more of your precious time. Thank you once again. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu, for adding to that. Yes, I'm really sorry that I have to go a little early. It's just Saturday's kind of crazy for us now. So forgive me, Prabhu. Thank you so much for attending Srimad Bhagavatam class and join us again tomorrow. Maybe Hari Chakra Prabhu will give class tomorrow. Prabhu, since you're listening, because I don't have somebody for Sunday yet. All right, dear devotees. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bo.
Hey, Prabhu, maybe you should give class on Sunday because you have limited time on Saturday. Maybe you should switch to Sunday.
If somebody wants to do Saturdays, yeah, it's just juggling the class schedules, often challenging. But yeah, I'll ask around and see if that works for somebody.
We don't want to be deprived of the full nectar of your discourse on Srimad Bhagavatam.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for always being encouraging. Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hari Bolo. Jai.